Hi, this video is meant for Ventura County Courthouse located at 800 Victoria Street in Ventura, California, for the judge, the lawyers, the people there in Ventura, California. I was sitting in my van one night, I would say, I don't know, maybe 9 or so, and a guy pulled up beside me. I was parked in the parking spot with the front of my car facing out towards the parking lot area. So he pulled up beside me so I could see him right here out my driver's side window. He pulled in a pickup, but he took up 2 parking spaces. The white line that divides the parking places was right in the middle of his truck. Plus, he did not pull all the way forward. He only pulled about halfway into the parking place. He got out of his truck. He walked into the restaurant, Mariscos La Senorita's restaurant, located in Oxnard, California. He walked into the restaurant, and then I noticed the manager of the restaurant walked him back outside. He got in his truck. He started it up, shut it off, started it, shut it off, pulled it forward a little bit more, started honking on the horn and turning his truck off and on and honking on the horn. Then he got out of his truck. He walked inside. The manager walked him back outside again. He then got in his truck again and started honking his horn again and starting it on and off and revving up the engine. Tried to go inside again. This was the 3rd time. The manager and another person both walked him out. He got in his truck then, started it up, revving up the engine and honking the horn. Then he backed his truck up, drove forward. Now, in front of the restaurant, there's actually a sidewalk, then there's a big planter, and then there's another sidewalk, and then there's the restaurant. Well, he drove his truck forward and drove his front wheels up on the first sidewalk that's right by the parking lot. He stopped, then he backed back up, honking his horn, turning it off and on. He got out to go in. The manager made him leave again. So, you know, you're looking at the 4th time now. This time, though, he got in his truck. And also, each time he would also just sit there sometimes. But most of the time it was honking the horn or turning it on and off and revving up the engine and stuff. But then this time he got in and did the same thing, was honking the horn and turning it on and off and revving up the engine. Then he backed up a little, drove forward a little, and did that, 3 or 4 different times. But then he drove clear back across the driving part that is in the parking lot where cars drive back and forth into the other parking spaces back behind the places where we was parked. And then he gunned it. He gave it the gas and just drove forward. He hit the sidewalk, the curb, and hit the sidewalk where people walk at. And then he landed on the planter, smashing the planter. Luckily, it's a thick planter. It's about like I'd say 2 foot, about 2 foot or so high. Maybe even a little bit higher, but around 2 foot, maybe a little bit higher. And it's about, I'd say, 3 to 4 feet wide. But he landed inside of that planter with the front end of his truck. And all of a sudden, the whole inside of his truck is like filled up with smoke. Anyway, I thought maybe the truck was on fire, but then he backs up. And then he starts driving off with his truck is all filled up with smoke. So I'm thinking something's on fire. Another person told me it was probably the battery exploded whenever he did that, because they said sometimes that sets off a lot of white smoke, and so maybe he had on his vent or his fan inside, or maybe his heater or something inside that sucks air from the engine compartment, and it blew all that smoke right inside the compartment. But you couldn't even see him in there, but yet he's driving off. And the manager was standing over there watching him drive off, and there was probably, I would guess, anywhere from 6 to 12 or more people that were sitting inside the restaurant at that time. Luckily, none of them was sitting by where he was trying to drive in, although he did not hit the restaurant. He hit the planter, which luckily was there. But he drove off onto Oxnard Boulevard, and he headed south on Oxnard Boulevard. The police came, and I had written down his tag number, so I gave his tag number to the police and told them what happened. The other people, I guess, told them what happened. The police left. Well, because I was busy doing stuff on the computer and everything, I would say it was about 2, maybe even, yeah, about 2 hours, possibly. I'm guessing. Maybe a little bit before that or a little bit after that. I'm thinking 2, maybe even 3 hours. I know it wasn't more than 3 hours, I don't think. But anyway, then I leave, and I'm driving down Oxnard Boulevard. And whenever I'm driving down Oxnard Boulevard, probably about, I'd say about 1 mile to 2 miles down Oxnard Boulevard, as I'm driving, I see off to the side on a side street. It was Roderick, I think is the name of the street. I'm not positive, but it's somewhere closer on there. It's by a thrift store. There's 2 thrift stores there, and it was in between the 2. There's a vacant lot and stuff too. But I noticed there's a man standing out in the street, and there's another guy in a truck hanging out of the driver's side with his head and hands towards the ground. And I'm thinking, my goodness, something terrible happened. So I turned around there to see if they needed any help. But whenever I pull up, I notice that looks like the same truck. And I asked the guy that's standing in the street if they had a wreck, because there was a vehicle in front of this truck too. And he said, no. He says, I was just walking by, and I saw this guy hanging out, or he said he was driving by. Somehow or another, he said this guy was hanging out, and he was scared that him or somebody else would run into this guy, because he's hanging out there in the middle of the street. And how he wasn't falling out of the truck, I don't know. Maybe his leg was being caught on the steering wheel, which was keeping him in. I didn't see a seatbelt on him. There's a possibility he had a seatbelt on, but I didn't notice it. And I tried to look to see if it was him, but he had a black hat that was pulled kind of like down over his face while he was hanging out. I don't know how come that didn't fall off either. But anyway, then I looked at the tag, and sure enough, it was him. And I looked at the front of the truck, and it was damaged a little bit in the front, but it was obviously damaged quite a bit underneath from the running up onto the planter. But his truck probably jumped up some whenever he hit the sidewalk, because he had gunned it and then landed on the planter, and so it didn't damage the front as much. But so anyway, the guy that was standing in the street was calling the police and talked to the police, and the police did show up. Now then I got subpoenaed to be a witness. This was back in October of the year 2010. Obviously then this guy who was all this drunk and everything, he was driving on a suspended license. He didn't even have a driver's license to be driving, for drinking and driving. A suspended driver's license for drinking and driving. But obviously, I guess maybe he's trying to plead innocent or something, and your government, the innocent that I'm believing he's trying to plead innocent, because each month I get a subpoena, and they keep delaying the trial. It was supposed to be November, I think, or December, and then they delay it again till January, February, March. Now they're delaying it till April, and so they just keep delaying it. And so this is my witness on this video to tell you that yes, that guy was very drunk, driving on a suspended license. And I hope this helps your case if he keeps saying he's innocent whenever he's guilty. And from what I hear, they said they had, probably 5 or 10 more witnesses too. So anyway, thank you and have a good night.